Aloha and good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. I want to get to the latest on that Mililani fire that is still burning. In an update released a short time ago by the Honolulu Fire Department, the fire has grown to 1,100 acres in size, but the containment remains at 30%. Now, the good news here is that no buildings or homes are threatened at this time. Water drops are continuing, and there are also no evacuation orders in place. However, there are multiple units and different firefighters along with the U.S. Army National Guard. They all are responding to this fire. Again, it is burning in the Mililani Mauka area. HFD has called this the Kipapa Ballroom Fire, and they are closely monitoring this. They also say the investigation into the origins of this fire is ongoing. So once again, we are all keeping a close eye on this. Anyone who may be impacted by the smoke is encouraged to stay inside, shelter in place with air conditioning. I know some neighborhoods as far away as Waikele have been able to smell the smoke from this fire. So we're going to go ahead and continue to keep a close eye on this fire. We also want to give you the latest news from overnight, in which a hours-long barricade in the Kapuhulu area has officially ended. Wynnum and Makaleka avenues were closed along with part of Palani Avenue as a precaution, but they are now back open. At least 2 large command trucks from HPD's Specialized Services Division responded to the scene along with several SSD officers. It all began around 5:30 yesterday afternoon. We've heard that it may have started when someone pointed a weapon at another person during an argument and then went inside his apartment, where he has been the entire time. As far as we know, there were no injuries and no shots were fired. Some residents were told to shelter in place.
I got stuck outside because it just happened that I pulled in at the same time when the police were called. And the police got out of their car, and I thought they had pulled somebody over, but I looked back and they were asking who called the police. And I guess it was over the situation of my neighbor being threatened by another neighbor with being greeted with a point of a rifle pointing at him.
We're still awaiting information about the suspect and the investigation from police, but news that the situation is over was welcome for neighbors who may have been worried about heading into school or work this morning. Elsewhere on Oahu, 26-year-old Fanaika Mateaki, seen on the left in this video, could face life in prison without a chance of parole after he was indicted for first-degree murder. His 19-year-old brother Paea was also indicted on 1 count of attempted murder. Fanaika allegedly shot and killed his former co-worker Ikaika Stone last Friday and tried to shoot another man but failed. Prosecutors say Paea then grabbed the gun and also tried to shoot the other man. The brothers remain in custody at OCCC. Looking to international news now, nearly 4 weeks into the war, and Israeli troops are now at the edges of Gaza City. But pressure is mounting for a pause in the fighting to aid civilians. Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
Israeli ground troops are closing in on Hamas strongholds, fighting militants on the edges of Gaza City. Israel is warning civilians to head south. Those who don't are paying a heavy price. Thousands have died amidst massive destruction. Israel's military says Hamas is holding more hostages than they'd originally calculated, now raising the number to 242, including dozens of children. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be back in Israel on Friday, working on their release.
We will focus as well on steps that need to be taken to protect civilians who are in a crossfire of Hamas's making. And we want to look at concrete steps that can be taken to better protect them.
President Biden has shown staunch support for Israel, but he's also calling for a humanitarian pause to get hostages out and aid to civilians. The conflict has created a divide in Congress. The new House Speaker is promising quick action on an Israel aid package.
We're going to do it in short order, and it provides Israel the aid it needs to defend itself, free its hostages, and eradicate Hamas.
Over in the Senate, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling the House bill woefully inadequate. Dozens of Americans trapped in Gaza since the war began are finally making their way home. Palestinians with dual citizenship have been allowed to exit through Rafah Gate into Egypt, while trucks enter carrying urgently needed humanitarian aid. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
And we have more details on how former Oahu resident Ramona Okumura was able to leave the war zone in Gaza. She was evacuated from a UN compound and safely crossed into Egypt with a doctor she was traveling with. They were in Gaza volunteering for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund when the war broke out. It took hours for Okumura to be processed, but her family actually saw her cross the border through a live social media feed.
It was really something. I don't have the words to say, but it was a relief.
I feel a lot of different things at the same time. Primarily, overwhelmed. It's like it's been such a crazy experience, and a simultaneous feeling of relief that I wish for everyone.
Okumura now lives in Washington state. The crossing was opened after Egypt, Hamas, and Israel agreed that up to 500 people per day may be evacuated. Back here on Oahu, convicted killer Stephen Brown could someday be paroled after all. A judge yesterday vacated a jury's recommendation that Brown receive a life sentence without parole for the 2017 murder of Thelma Boinville in Pupukea. The sentencing change follows a Hawaii Supreme Court opinion on misleading jury instructions. Brown and ex-girlfriend Haley Danduran, who was also convicted of murder, will now both be sentenced on December 6th. We now have a clearer picture of a criminal case against 4 Honolulu police officers accused of chasing a car full of people in Makaha. The information was detailed in court filings ahead of an upcoming trial. Arlen Kawano broke this story years ago and joins us with the latest.
The recently filed court document clearly describes each officer's alleged role in the crime. The prosecutor's office has laid out some of the evidence against HPD officers Joshua Nahulu, Eric Smith, Jake Bartolome, and Robert Lewis as next month's trial approaches. Nahulu is charged for a collision involving serious bodily injury. The others are charged with hindering prosecution and conspiracy. A court filing last month described what the government will show the jury, including body camera videos from the September 2021 incident that ended with 6 people going to the hospital, some with critical injuries.
Hey! I'll chase this.
The prosecutor's report revealed it was Bartolome who made that statement before turning off his body camera, as he allegedly began to chase the driver of a white Honda who honked the horn while leaving Maili Beach Park. Surveillance videos will also be used at trial. The prosecution says it shows the white Honda on Farrington Highway being chased by Nahulu, Bartolome, and Smith without lights or sirens activated and without monitoring from a supervisor.
And the officers had to have been aware of the dangers, especially at that speed. They're supposed to relay to their supervisors and the police communications dispatch so that the supervisors can evaluate whether to continue that pursuit or cut it.
After the white Honda crashed, the officers allegedly left, returning to the scene after the 911 calls were made. Prosecutors say while at the scene, each acted as if he had no knowledge of the facts that gave rise to the collision. Also revealed, Lewis, Bartolome, and Smith submitted police reports that omitted key details, and 2 of them requested 4 hours of overtime pay. Prosecutors say those hours were used to collude in preparation of those police reports.
They failed to follow all of the police guidelines, blue lights, the siren, reporting it to the commander, everything you can think of. Then they did other things beyond that, clear criminal acts, failing to render aid.
Attorney Michael Stern represented 4 of the men inside the vehicle. Some have permanent injuries. The city settled, costing taxpayers $4.5 million. 2 other civil lawsuits are still pending. Trial is set for December 18th. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Now to the latest from Maui. 76-year-old Lee Rogo from Lahaina has been identified as another victim killed in the fires. Of the 99 confirmed deaths, all but 1 victim has been identified. A first draft of a report laying out what went right and what went wrong during the Maui wildfire response, along with what legislation is needed in the future, is now available. and lawmakers are asking for the public to weigh in. The House formed 6 bipartisan groups to evaluate specific topics related to the Lahaina wildfire. The groups were charged with making recommendations for appropriate legislative action in the 2024 regular session. The groups include wildfire prevention, shelter, schools, jobs, and business, and environmental remediation, along with food, water, and other supplies. All are related to the Maui wildfire response. Each group had a deadline of yesterday to provide a preliminary report. If you'd like to weigh in, you can attend the first of several public meetings, November 8th at the Hawaii State Capitol. That'll be located in Conference Room 309, and that meeting starts at 2 p.m. Well, with mortgage and construction loan rates already topping 6%, developers are changing their projects to make it worth their investment. Our Daryl Huff has one example in Wailuku.
There is no island with a bigger housing crisis now than Maui, and developers there are scrambling to get projects in the pipeline quickly. But the spike in interest rates is making that even tougher.
These are mortgage rates that we haven't encountered for about 30 years. It's just and it happened so suddenly that it's a shock to the system.
Veteran Maui developer Everett Dowling has taken over the Kuakahi Workforce Housing Project in Wailuku, which was supposed to be for-sale housing, but he said rising interest rates made for-sale homes unaffordable.
You're getting squeezed on the cost, and your revenues decrease because the buyers can't afford the mortgages. They can't afford to pay the sales prices.
The Dowling Company is proposing dropping the plan from 54 buildings with homes for sale to a simpler 6-building layout with 202 rentals at a range of affordability from a $1,200 studio to $3,400 3-bedroom unit, hoping for completion in just 3 years.
It's a combination of those 3 things, pivoting from for sale to rentals, the project design, and the project timeline.
The Dowlings told the Maui Council they need a $40 million low-interest county loan to make it pencil out, but the county housing director said the project will have to compete with others for the money.
If you just do a simple calculation on paper and figure out how much money has been asked for versus how much money is actually available, there's a very big deficit in that.
That answer frustrated those who hoped that the county would act faster on a housing crisis made worse by the Lahaina fire.
Action is what's missing. A sense of urgency is missing.
We have the resources to help invest in our people because our people are leaving.
This is ready to run. Other projects are still trying to rev up.
We're not going to give up trying. It's we'll keep knocking our head against the wall, and maybe one day we'll get some housing built.
Other developers I talked to today agreed interest rates are forcing them to change their projects. But some say in Hawaii, the overarching problem remains multiple layers of regulatory steps, which add time and cost to every new project. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Now in national economic news, mortgage rates have snapped a 7-week streak of increases. Freddie Mac data released Thursday shows the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 7.76% in the week ending November 2nd. That's down from 7.79% the week before. A year ago, the average rate was just under 7%. This data comes just a day after the Federal Reserve said it would leave its benchmark lending rate where it is, but hasn't ruled out a hike before the year ends.
Now we're here in the Digital Center with Kyle Chanen and Megan Ramones. They recently worked on a special in which they talked to Angela Lee Pucci, who is a MMA world champion. I brought them in today to talk a little bit more about their special.
This is kind of a mix between our two worlds, a little bit of digital, a little bit of sports, but more so all about mental health. Now, I think a lot of people have been known, especially here in Hawaii. Angela Lee Pucci is a well-known MMA champion since retired, but since her retirement, she really has opened up about her struggles with mental health and kind of the start of her new endeavor, right, Megan?
Yes, Angela has been working on mental health awareness ever since her launch, I believe, at the beginning of September for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And we were able to sit down with her on Monday.
Yeah.
So that was a really good interview.
We really appreciate her taking the time to share her story. This all kind of came to light after the tragic passing of her younger sister, Victoria Lee. And now she's just putting kind of her whole heart and effort into raising awareness for mental health in the world of athletics, whether it be like yourself, an MMA fighter, or just any athletes all around the world, to kind of destigmatize and normalize talking about mental health and mental health awareness amongst athletes.
And just to kind of piggyback on that, Angela also mentioned that with this nonprofit, she's hoping that a lot of not only student athletes, but every youth in the world is able to normalize the conversation with mental health, and also remember that they're not alone in this journey, especially when it comes to sports. Like, there's this facade that you need to be strong all the time. But she mentioned and she emphasized that when it comes to your mental health, it's okay to say that you're not okay.
Yeah.
And to voice those struggles.
That's such an important topic, especially to just destigmatize, the connotations of mental health and opening up that conversation. You mentioned that fight and that story. Isn't that the name of her nonprofit, Fight Story? Can you tell us a little bit more about it and other key topics from that conversation?
Yeah, there was a lot of good things that she said at that interview, but the one that stuck out the most to me is that she's using this as a movement for mental health. And I mean, I think all of us are kind of guilty when it comes to mental health. We kind of shy away from it. But then with this nonprofit Fight Story, she's emphasizing that we have a story to tell and we shouldn't shy away from it. We should be talking about it. And so this nonprofit, she says, is a way to start that conversation and make sure that people know that, again, they're not alone,
Yeah, and I think another thing that really hit hard for me is some of the personal testimony that she shared, not only with the tragic loss of her sister Victoria, but her own struggles with mental health, and an incident that she talks about, which we'll go in depth more in the full special. But she was very vulnerable, and she talked about the strength and courage it took to be able to, be that vulnerable and open up and really show others that, this the 6-time world champion, this when you watch a fight when she was in the prime of her career, it was intimidating. She was almost unstoppable. But to show that she was not invincible, it was really something really special that she was able to open up with.
It sounds like a very important story, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers would love to watch the full thing. Where can they do that?
Yeah, it's going to be super easy. Well, first off, I'll be producing a story for the evening newscast tonight, on air and online. And also, if you want to check the screen right now, we'll have a QR code up that'll link you directly to the full version that Megan has put a lot of work into, and that'll be on all of our digital platforms.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Back to you, Dylan.
Thank you guys so much for shedding light on such an important topic. Let's go ahead and send you live outside. Now you're looking at New York City. The evening has just approached there. The skyscrapers are starting to light up. It is just under 50 degrees there in the Big Apple. Right after this short break, we'll have a look at your island weather. Stay tuned.
got drought across the state. We got that fire burning up in Mililani. And there is a chance for meaningful rainfall up to the northwest from this front. It's not expected in until probably Sunday into Monday. There it is early Sunday morning, mainly affecting Kauai. Now, this is just one weather model. And this weather model is actually aggressive, saying we're going to see more rain from it, which is good. I hope this is the one that works out, because it's not a guarantee, right? This is just a model. So early Monday morning, the rain going to stretch to Oahu and also to the windward side of Hawaii Island. And the rain's going to linger around, especially for Kauai and Oahu, looks like into Wednesday. That would be best case scenario, because we need more rain. But keep in mind, too, whatever rain comes in will be moving out quickly, because we got these breezy winds taking over all the way through Monday. And the rain will focus on those windward and Mauka areas, especially over Kauai and Oahu. Until then, though, we'll have drier conditions today with a chance for a few spotty afternoon showers, and it's going to be humid. And the other thing that you'll really notice is tomorrow, those winds will be quite strong, and they'll remain brisk and breezy, at least through Monday.
Let's take a look at sports now. Turning to the World Series, there is a lone star in Major League Baseball. The Texas Rangers finally won their first championship in franchise history. Omar Villafranca is outside of Globe Life Field, the Rangers' home stadium in Arlington, Texas.
It's happened! The Texas Rangers win the World Series!
A championship more than half a century in the making.
So long to heartbreak. Hello, World Series.
For long stretches, though, it looked like it wouldn't be the Rangers' night, as Diamondbacks pitcher Zach Gallen hurled 6 hitless innings. Before the Rangers broke out in the 7th with a run and added a 4-run cushion in the 9th. They were powered all series long by shortstop Corey Seager, who became just the 4th player in history to win multiple World Series MVPs.
Just happy to be a part of this team and how we grinded and played through it. You know, it's awesome right now.
Despite the Rangers' historic win and Major League Baseball changing the rules to speed up the game, television ratings throughout the series were dismal. This year featured at least 2 of the least watched World Series games on record, even though regular season attendance reached its highest level since 2017. Cody Stavenhagen, an MLB beat writer with The Athletic, says it's a matter of geography.
Phoenix, not a huge baseball market. Dallas-Fort Worth, although it is a huge market, known as more of a football market, you didn't have a team on either coast. You didn't have a New York, a Boston, and LA.
But fans in Arlington don't care. After decades of waiting and near misses, their team finally sits atop the baseball world.
It's been so long. I'm so happy for them guys.
They did it, and I am just, I'm just in awe right now.
Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Arlington, Texas.
In consumer news, Ford is recalling close to 200,000 Mustangs. The recall is due to a brake fluid level sensor. It may not activate the visual warning indicator when brake fluid is low. The issue impacts 2020 through 2023 models. Ford says the fix is a software update that can be performed at dealerships at no cost to owners. The company plans to start sending letters to affected owners December 4th. Well, like it or not, the holiday shopping season has begun. The National Retail Federation has released its sales forecast for the 2023 season. And despite high inflation, some shoppers may actually be excited to spend more than they did last year. Mike Valerio shares the best time for shoppers to get some deals.
And we'll give you a hint. The best holiday deals are expected to happen around 22 days from now. But this all matters because even though we're not feeling so great about interest rates and inflation, the economy is still roaring.
'Tis the season of spending, and despite concerns over the economy, the National Retail Federation says consumers are ready to spend big.
NRF is forecasting that total holiday sales during the months of November and December could reach as high as $967 billion.
The holiday shopping season keeps creeping earlier and earlier. This year, it's for a very practical reason.
They want more time to find deals, and they want more time to really spread out that shopping.
With inflation holding...
Well, it's time to get that holiday shopping going. We thank you so much for watching. This Is Now. Be sure to tune in first at 4 as we provide the latest on the Mililani fire.